In this week's episode, we sit down with Gary Fox from the Entrepreneur Experiment podcast, a man who has interviewed over 400 founders. This time, we flip the script and hear his story from college days to his first job and the business ventures that shaped his journey. This episode is brought to you by Top Drawer Talent, the supply chain and procurement recruitment specialist. Let's get into it. Here we go.
Thanks for coming in today. Going back to the very start, right? School, right? Because that's kind of what I'm kind of interested in as well. How was school for you, kind of coming through the second level education?
It's so long ago now I can barely remember. It was alright.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't mad about it. Like, it was fine. I went to a very small primary school, like really small.
Right.
Like when my wife came down to see it, she was like, "Oh, you went to school there?" It was like walking to school barefoot. Like, it was. She's used to Dublin schools and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So there only would have been like 12 in my class, 6 in the class underneath us, that kind of way. So it's a very small country school. Then I went to like a big secondary school. So I went to Nina. So like Acherony is the village, Nina is the town. And it was just such a huge culture shock.
Okay.
And what I just didn't take to it very well.
Right.
And like, you do this entrance exam. We'd never done anything like that ever. Right. So like the entrance exam just couldn't have gone worse. And I was put into this class, which wasn't a great class, put it that way. Politely put it that way. And literally it was like the Hunger Games. I had to fight my way out of that class to just go, I don't belong here. So for the first literally year, 18 months, it was that, just trying to like get up. And then it was probably third or fourth year that I actually finally kind of found a group of people that became my closest friends. So probably the first 3 years weren't very good. Next 2 years were good. Like, we did transition year. It was very important. Like, that definitely was a defining year.
Really, yeah.
Huge. And I think that's a big believer of what I think about education now, is just the broader nature of that. Just the chance to pause and experience things beyond history, maths, biology.
Okay. What did you do, like a business thing in transition year, or did you do something specific?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was probably a big part of it. I actually went back this year. It was really cool. It was really nice, like full circle moment of going back to the young entrepreneur competition.
Okay.
So we came second to Prairie, then we won our local one, came second in the county, then went on to the national. But even just the confidence of doing that was like, oh, amazing. Up to like UCD to like compete there.
Right.
And it was like going to like New York.
Yeah,
it's like the ultimate thing, right? We've made it, right?
Coming from the country, yeah.
100%, right? Because we're just an alien. It sounds silly to say now, but like, it was an alien environment. So even that was very, very important, to just give you the little bit of self-confidence to kind of look beyond Nina and look beyond like just normal stuff. Because the school was fine. It wasn't a great school, it wasn't a terrible school. It was fine.
That's great. Okay. Did you make it then to Leaving Cert?
Yeah.
Cert?
Like, I think everyone, like, I kind of probably the first generation maybe of everyone just did the Leaving Cert. It was just a normal thing. LCA came in, I remember in third year, and some lads did that, but it was kind of seen as this like not great thing. Now I think the perception changed quite a bit, which is good. I was chatting to someone about this recently. And I think, everyone did the Leaving. It was kind of just a standard thing you did. Very few people, even though it wasn't a super school, very few people dropped out. Everyone kind of just made it through. So I did grand. Like, I was a good, decent worker. I was kind of in the middle. I worked hard when I needed to. Probably lacked a little bit of structure.
Okay.
But did well.
Grand. Did you play sports then in school, or?
Yeah. Like school again. Sports weren't great. Like, it was gar or nothing. Do you know what I mean? Really, like, it was
that's typical Irish school, right?
Yeah, it was tip like, oh, you want to play? If you weren't a good hurler, you were kind of screwed. Really, being honest. So there's no. I love like soccer, football, whatever you're gonna call it. I love it. Like, I play it from dawn to dusk. Foreign game. It's going back a wee bit now. So like, it was very much like the standard wasn't great. So like, you did a bit of track. It was okay. Track was fast. But it was kind of playing football at the weekends is what I kind of lived for.
Okay. And did you know what you wanted to do when you left school, or did you have an idea? Did you have a job while you were in school?
Yeah, I got a job at 15.
Okay.
That was defining. So I worked in a mobile phone shop when I was 15.
So that's kind of like selling phones or phone cases kind of thing.
Yeah, and that was definitely defining for my career. That was the moment where I was like, oh, this is cool. Bit of independence, bit of cash. It was great. You're 15. You're getting paid for the first time. And it really brought me out of my shell. I think that and transition year were the two things that I would kind of look back on and go, they were fundamental to having a bit of confidence, not being so shy, being able to deal with people. Like, if you can deal with the public, you can pretty much do anything.
Yeah.
So, dealing with like public, it was it was back in the go-go days of mobile phones. You couldn't sell them fast enough.
Right.
People were just buying them regardless. So those two things combined definitely set me up.
Okay. And like in what way? Like was it just like the customer service fun thing, or was it having like the cash in the back pocket that kind of helped you, gave you
It was
confidence?
everything. It was that wee bit of independence.
Okay.
It was that wee bit of independence of going, you have your own time now, your own responsibilities. You had to be there at a certain time. You had to turn up and perform, and you were learning. Like you were in this work environment for the very first time. Like school is fine, but it's all a bit kind of like, I don't know what the word is. It's just a bit safe. It's just a bit kind of like, routine. You just turn up here, you do that. It's this. Whereas with work, the guy was a born entrepreneur. He was very dynamic, energetic, and anything was on the table.
Right.
He would have ideas all the time, and he'd be just like, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. And he would trust you to just go, hey, you do that, you do this, you do that. And immediately I was like, oh, class. He's like, oh, bring these 100 people. I couldn't think of anything more scary. But I just did it, sat down in the back room like, hello, you'd like to upgrade your phone? Like it was like something The Simpsons, but like I did it. I never finished it going, that was terrible. But you do it, and you do these little things, and like just working there. So I'd work there after school, I'd work there at the weekends, and then I launched like my first little business, which was doing the markets on a Sunday.
Okay.
He was doing the markets. He was a real hustler. He'd do the markets on a Sunday, and then I just set up my own little offshoot. He's like, oh, you do this market, and we set up like 2 different stalls and stuff, doing unlocking, sales, repairs, all that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay. So that was like your first exposure to entrepreneurship, was actually at the market stall.
Yeah.
All right. That's interesting.
Proper old school, like literally Del Boy Trotter style stuff. Like
Sunday millionaires. But in terms of like, how did you get that job? Right? Did you just rock into the phone shop and say, "Can I have a job?" Or was it a CV
it
or
was my dad
something?
actually?
Okay.
I remember this. Yeah, my dad used to go into your man to get his upgrade, and he was like, "Oh, any chance you could carry a job?" And I was like, "Yeah, no bother." It was just that ask. You get what you ask for, not what you deserve. That is a principle I've kind of learned to live by. Is that you get what you ask for, not what you deserve. No one's going to give you a nice part-time job, and everything started from there.
Right. Happy days. And leaving school then, right? So did you keep that job for many years, kind of into college?
Oh yeah, I kept it, and then I launched my own phone shop in college.
Right.
So I was doing the markets every Sunday. I was working with Tom, and then we kind of like did a joint venture in University of Limerick. So again, I was like, there's definitely a market here. Why don't I just do what I'm doing at the markets in UL? Because I remember this really was Celtic Tiger stuff.
Yeah.
If you signed up to AIB for a new account, they give you a phone. It's just bizarre. And I vividly remember like there was a line of maybe 500 students. Love free stuff.
Yeah.
So imagine getting a free phone. There was a line of about 600 students outside AIB every day getting free phones.
Servicing the phone.
So I was like, they were locked to, I can't remember, were they locked to 086 or something? They were locked.
Yeah,
they were
the OT network, I think.
They were sim locked, right? So I had all the software to unlock them. So it was like 20 quid, 20 quid, 20 quid, 20 quid. I was like, this is money for jam.
Yeah.
I'll just set up a shop. So Tom was like, oh, we'll give you a repair contract to repair all Nokia phones. We just need all the repairs to come through us.
Right.
I went to the Students' Union, got like their front desk. I was like, you using this front area? So they had their desk, which is Students' Union.
Yeah.
And people come in and out, and I was like, what about that area there? Would you just give me that as like set up a small shop? And they're like, yeah, whatever.
Okay.
Like a token rent. And I set that up in UL, and that kind of paid my way through college.
Right. So, and was it basically just like unlocking phones like at the desk, or?
Yeah, sales, unlocking. You never do it at the desk. You got to make them feel like there's a lot of work to it. You
Take it home and give it back to you the next day.
So you have to, optics matter, right? So you'd have to like, oh, come back in like 3 hours now. We'll run it through the system.
You have it done in 5
We had an
minutes.
incredible system. It was literally like a phone would hook to the phone, go, done.
Okay. But you had to make them feel
it's like Da Vinci with the sketch, right? You're not getting paid for the sketch, you're getting paid for the work before.
It's fair enough. Okay. And then college then, what college course did you decide to do?
Business.
Okay.
Yeah, purely because of the part-time job.
Okay.
I had no clue what I wanted to do, being honest. Not a notion.
Yeah, so business was kind of what you wanted to do. Was the business course what you thought it would be in terms of like what you would learn, or like, because it doesn't really teach you how to set up a business or run a business, does it?
Doesn't. I learned more working for myself.
Yeah.
I think about this now because I get a lot of questions from people, and I lecture at third level now as well, so I get a lot of students in secondary level asking, oh, what should I do if I own my own business? It's a tricky question because I now don't know with hindsight, did I learn lots from the business degree? Did it help me, or did I just learn from doing my own business and that was just something I did in the hours in between? I don't know, if I'm very, very honest. I think a specialization is more important. If you've never, if you want to learn how to run a business. That's the thing. Just start a business, anything. It doesn't really matter what it is.
Yeah.
If you've no fundamentals, yeah, a degree is probably good if you've never had a part-time job, but probably going into the wrong industry if you've never had a part-time job. So it's a chicken and egg. I don't really know, if I'm honest.
Okay, yeah. I think the degree side of things taught me how to have the conversations with like the management accountant or whatever. Taught me how to have the conversations with the accountant, but in terms of like the day job or running a business doesn't actually teach you how to run a business. It's or set up a business or whatever. And
That's
it's
back
pretty
to
straightforward.
schooling. That should be taught
Yeah.
at secondary level.
So another question then for you was like, what changes then would you like to see made to the educational system as it is?
I think it doesn't make any sense. It's a while since I've done it, so I can't comment on
Yeah.
all the current aspects of it, but I think it just doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Especially as we come into the AI era. Information is since the internet, information is not the problem. It's curation, creative thinking, execution, and strategy is the problem.
Yeah. Or deciphering what information is relevant or
Learning how to learn.
yeah.
Like, you know, people learn how to take in information and repeat it back. That's utterly useless.
Yeah.
The simplest smartphone in the world can do that 100 times better than you now. So you're not going to be better than a €79 phone. So you have to learn how to learn. You have to learn how to be a creative problem solver, a creative thinker, how to have a conversation, how to have emotional intelligence, how to have life skills.
Right.
Like, you come out of school with so little. Like, you know very little about personal finance. Most people still don't.
Yeah.
You know very little about, like, how do you live? Like, how do you just day to day? How do you get on in the world? All the soft skills, like, that stuff's going to become far more important now. Like, all the kind of menial jobs and all the this is an interesting thing, is that all the starter jobs are going to be gone now. All the grunt work you used to do as an admin, an intern, an entry level person, they're going to be done away with by AI. So where do you start? I think people, if I was 15, 16 now, and I think about this for my daughter, she's very young, so the world will have changed completely by the time she gets there. But if I was 15 now, I'd be thinking all the entry level jobs are going to be completely different.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do?
What one course or one subject would you recommend that should go into the educational system now for guys coming towards leaving cert? Or do you know?
Good question. I would say, like, life skills is so broad, but something that would give you, like, human skills, like this conversation, how to have a conversation, how to listen.
Yeah.
Like, are you
Active listening? Yeah.
are you listening just to reply, or are you listening to understand? They're two very different things. Most people are listening to reply.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Connor, yeah, launching into your own spiel. Whereas if you're listening to listen and learn, that's very, very different. You're listening to what you're saying, taking in information and processing it, and then adding some value back. Like, definitely life skills would be one. I think finance is another, not just general finance, like how the world works. How does money work?
Yeah.
No one teaches you that.
No one teaches anything about money in school.
Money, like, just especially in Ireland, like, money is a taboo subject. But, like, money, how does money work? Like, what happens when you get paid? What's tax? What's VAT? There's some business people listening to this who still don't know how VAT works.
You're joking, right?
No, I'm not. I'm not. I've had people say, oh yeah, I was doing really well until I got my first VAT bill. That's not an uncommon thing. And I can understand it, because you're not taught these things. Even if you do a business degree, people come out and still don't know what VAT is.
Yeah, or they don't know anything about really the tax system, because it's not really taught in, like, management accounting.
No. Just basics.
Yeah.
The basics. Education is rooted in, like, these old archaic learning ideas.
Okay.
When in reality, the world is shifting so quickly now. It takes 2-3 years to implement a change in the education system.
Yeah.
Whereas the world is changing in 6 months.
It's crazy. But in terms of like academia, right? You stayed in third level education till 2008, was it?
Way too long.
Okay.
I did way too many courses because I didn't really know what to do, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, I did I did business, then did a grad program, which was brilliant.
Okay.
Really good. Grad programs I definitely would
That's the
recommend.
IBEC one. wasn't it?
Yeah,
Okay.
IBEC one was class. Again, it was a bit mental. It was a bit Celtic Tigery. I did the interviews, got a place with an Irish drinks company. And they were like, do you want to go to Los Angeles or Kentucky? I was like, oh boy.
No,
here we
they sent
go.
you away.
Oh, well. I was like, of course, LA.
Right, yeah.
They were hiring one. And they're like, oh, we're actually going to hire a second guy. We'll give you first choice because you were the first one hired. Where do you want to go? And I was like, come on. Who wants to go to
LA.
Kentucky? Turns out he had a better time. I was like, LA, obviously. I'd never been to America.
Okay,
I'd
well,
never
that's fair
been,
enough. Right,
I'd never been to America. I remember flying in looking like it's like my
Was it exactly what
I
you
was
thought it'd be?
peering. No, it wasn't at all. I was peering out the window coming into LA and like going, where's the Hollywood sign? Where is it? But I remember like landing. I vividly remember this. I landed, and I kind of had this idealized version of LA. Like I had no perception of how big it was.
Okay.
So I landed in, and your man's like, "Oh, I got the car." And he gets the car, and we just like turn around and drive east for like 90 minutes into no man's land. I was like, shit, should have went to Kentucky. So I ended up way up. But look, it was class. It was a mad year.
Right.
I lived there for a year and then went up to Canada. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was class.
Were you on your own going to LA? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And
He came out for like, I think 3-4 days. That was wild. So he came out for 3-4 days. Like, okay, handed me the keys to the car. See you Christmas or whatever it was. I think it might have been Christmas. I was like, deadly. Okay, cool.
Class.
So it was amazing.
yeah. What did you do like over there? Like, what were you actually doing?
So basically, I was placed with their partner company. So they were a huge manufacturer of own label Irish cream liqueurs.
Yeah.
Very random. Like that's a
Probably big in
22-year-old
America, though, right?
guy. You're like, Irish cream liqueur. I can't think of anything worse.
It's just
But I was like, yeah, whatever. So I just cared about the business. I wasn't really that worried. So yeah, that was huge in the States. Like Irish cream liqueur is quite big, and especially the own brand stuff. They were selling it to Kroger, all the big retailers over there. So I was placed with their partner company to basically be their man on the ground, to like, look after partners, launch new projects and stuff. Yeah, it was wild. It's good though.
Class. And so, how long were you over there for? 6 months? Was it a year?
About a year, just under a year, and then it wasn't going very well.
Okay.
Their relationship with the partner company was not great.
Okay.
And they were having all these problems, and I was just kind of kicking my heels. And I'd gone up to Calgary on just a trade visit, and got on so well with them. Like the people were just great crack. They were just all the good parts of America without the bad parts of America. It's just the ideal environment. They're like, look, do you want to go up to Calgary for 6 months? I was like, absolutely,
Yeah,
I do.
why not?
Yeah, I kind of had enough of LA. It was quite isolating. You were kind of out in this, like everything's driving. It's a driving city. So you were kind of out in this kind of suburb area. I was living in an apartment on my own. It was quite isolating. It wasn't the dream I thought it was. Unbelievable experience, but I probably didn't have the self-confidence or the ambition at the time to really make the most of it. I should have traveled a lot more. I should have got out a lot more. I should have integrated a lot more. I didn't. I was kind of like a bit isolated. So when that came up, I just went to Calgary, and it was amazing.
Right. And then after 6 months out in Calgary, then we back to Dublin. Back
to them. Worked with them for a little bit, and they offered me a permanent job, and I didn't want to do it. I don't know. There was something about it. They were like, "Oh, work here and do this," and I just couldn't see where I'd fit in.
Right.
I just couldn't see. I didn't want to do it. Been frank. And the guy I'd worked with, Tom, he was setting up a property company. He's like, "Do you want to just come back and work with me?" I was like, "Yeah, I do. I want to come back and work with you." I've loved property. Always had this weird fascination with like every Irish person.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, come back and I'm buying a property company. Help me run it." And it was in Limerick randomly. And I was like, yeah. So I went back and worked with him.
And were you finished with college then totally at that stage? Or
I went back then. So
2010.
I went back and did a master's in journalism. I was always in kind of communications, marketing sort of things. Went back and I was like, I'm going to do a master's in journalism to learn how to be a really good communicator.
Okay.
So went back and did that in DIT.
Okay. Back then, right? Like, did you think like college was the be all and end all to kind of move you to the next level?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
And I was completely incorrect.
Yeah. I got that impression from it like that. Like maybe, because I think a lot of people fall into that trap. Like they think like, I'll go do a course, or like I'll go do a master's because I'm leaving my job and this might help me get another job. And it's like, well, that's not actually always the case.
That'll give me the credibility. That'll give me the tools I need. Look, sometimes it does. If it's a hard left or a hard right, absolutely it will. If you've never done anything in that area, no one's going to hire you in that area, really. Especially as you go further into your career, these changes get harder. You know, if you've worked in business all your life and suddenly you're going to go become a physio, you can't just go, here, hop up there and I'll rub your calf. You know, you have to.
Yeah, you have to learn the ropes.
But if it's just a slight shift in gears, 10 degrees left, 10 degrees right, don't bother. Just go get practical experience in it. So like, definitely I'd advise people, especially in their younger years, to get experience in the area before you even start to make huge decisions, because courses give you a false sense of security because so many people have degrees and now so many people have masters. Masters are the new degrees.
Yeah, that's
so now you're competing with everybody else. the only thing that will separate you is practical experience. If I'm hiring people, all I look for is practical experience.
Yeah.
Really, I just want to know: can you do the job? Have you experienced doing the job? Have you shown initiative to learn yourself?
Yeah. It's the same, even as a recruiter. Like if a company comes to me, they're not looking for someone that has done a course. They're looking for someone with experience doing the job that they're going to be paid for. So it's important to know. But then your property business, then, right? So was that like just kind of buying and selling property, or like you leasing property?
Leasing,
what?
yeah, it was
Okay.
in the leasing game, which was really good. I actually really enjoyed that.
Was this the Host Butlers, or was it?
No,
something
that was
different?
before. Yeah,
Okay.
that was before. This was like just normal leasing and rental,
Yeah.
and a little bit of purchasing in between. Kind of got to work with a lot of investors and things like that. So it was really interesting.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed like learning how the property market works. Yeah, it was just kind of around before the bang. So it was
good
good
times.
times, right? It wasn't the hardest job in the world.
No,
If I'm
no.
very, very honest. It's kind of like now you'd put a place up for rental and it would just be like pop, 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 pop.
Gone, yeah.
You'd be doing like horrible. You'd have 20 people queued up to view it. Oh, jeez, grim.
Yeah, I seen Daft. I think it was the other day released like the average rent price in Dublin at the moment is like over €2,000.
That's insane.
That's absolutely colossal.
It's insane. But look, this has always been the way.
That's
are like,
capitalism
oh my
as well,
God,
like.
this is totally new. I'm like, no, this has
it's
always
it-
been the
yeah.
way. This is the way back in 2006, 7 when I was working in it. It'll always be the way. Like we just have an undersupply for the market we have. It's simple economics. People jump up and down every single year. I find it so annoying. Every single year, it's the same headlines, the same lazy thoughts, the same lazy narrative every year. Student housing crisis. Every year, every September, oh, little Johnny's going to Dublin and he can't get a place. And it's in the national media. And you're like, this is every year, guys. This is nothing new.
Yeah. Well, we won't get into the property game.
Wherever you want. It's
Yeah.
your pod. You can do whatever you like.
But it's it is tough, right? But it is what it is at the end of the day. That's capitalism, right?
That's the way of the world.
Yeah, it is what it is. But then, so the property game, you learned a lot dealing with investors. Where did you go to then next after that job?
So I did the master's in journalism.
Okay.
Yeah, I did the master's in journalism in DIT. That was a misstep. That was definitely a misstep. Like, look, you take something from every experience, but I probably lacked mentors. I was thinking about this coming in today. I was like, what did I lack back then? I lacked mentors.
Okay.
I lacked people advising me. And that's what I try build out with the podcast now, is a network of great people.
Yeah.
That I can call on. So a lot of my job now is actually not the job I do. A lot of the job is connecting people.
Yeah.
Like connecting you to someone. You're like, oh, I need to figure out how to do this. I'm like, oh, I'm going to connect you with Connor. Off we go. I literally did it before I came in here 30 seconds ago. I was like, here, can talk to Ben. He's going to hook you up with this. Because that's how stuff gets done.
Yeah.
You know, that's how real progress is made, through making great connections. So I needed probably a mentor and stronger figures in my life back then to kind of go, you're in the property game. Why don't you just now become an investor, or why don't you just start like, you know, doing your own thing?
Yeah.
I went back to college. I was kind of more of a whim than anything. It wasn't a really well thought out decision.
Okay. Was when you're in the property game, right? Were you like did you have cash with your owner, or were you a PAY employee, or?
I was PAY employee, but like me and Tom would always be doing stuff on the side, so it did well.
Yeah, that's okay. So
That's again, that was the thing. We're always like scheming and doing little bits and bobs. Bought some property, did all that kind of stuff. So like,
right, okay. So you would have had like cash reserves, let's say, to kind of
cash was king back then.
Yeah.
Still dabble in the markets, doing a bit like that.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Why not?
The
but then-
statute of limitations is expired now on revenue, I hope.
I don't. But then you were so you went and done the masters in journalism,
Yeah.
and then you went to be a journalist or a photojournalist. Was
Yeah. So
that's
look,
like
it was
a
really
massive
interesting.
career change, right?
Yeah, kind of. I didn't even think of it was, to be fair.
Well, probably.
I never really thought of like a logical career. I never thought of like, I'll do this and this and this and this and this. I'll never, you know, I'm going to be an accountant. I'm going to do accountancy degree. I'm going to do exams. I'm going to be an accountant. That never just appealed to me. I was always curious. I loved books. I loved the media. I loved communications, and it just appealed to me. I couldn't really tell you why I did it. And this guy came in. It was just before journalism went bang. It was right at the crux of print versus digital, when digital was there but hadn't taken over, but print was really struggling. So there was kind of this no man's land there for a couple of years before media was just in the toilet.
Okay.
You know, digital hadn't like shown up what it was going to be, and print was really struggling. So like you get these crappy jobs like a sub editor. Oh, it was terrible. Like, or like end up working on radio for a wee bit. which actually sounds more glamorous than it is. It was not
I was
great.
reading the description on your LinkedIn. It didn't. I was like,
It
oh,
was
do
not
that job.
great. I used to work weekends. I know I loved it because I was doing the sports news. But the people, I worked with good people, but the bosses were absolute not great people.
What's it like being a journalist, right? Is it like, are you like PAYE employee again, or are you like self-employed and you're only paid for the work that you produce, or like, how
It
does that work?
depends. So like I was employee for certain ones. I was employee for like the radio and stuff like that, but the rest of the stuff would be self-employed. And that's why I probably enjoyed it. I again had my own business.
Right.
I always was doing nixers on the side. I was always doing stuff, right? Figuring out ways to make a few quid. And then this photojournalist came in and it was exceptional. Some of his work, Niall Carson from the Press Association.
Right.
He is like the top of the top. And he just won Press Association or Photojournalist of the Year. He came in to give a talk, and I just went up to him at the end. I was like, "Could I like shadow you for like 2 weeks?" He's like, "Yeah, you can. Like, come out like I think a week's later or something."
Right.
So I went with him a week later. I only had like a Canon. I was always dabbling. I only had a Canon, something like a real amateur thing.
Yeah.
Went with him, and he's got all the gear, and he's got the 2 cameras over his shoulder. So he gives me like a couple of cameras, and the first thing we go and shoot is the thing in the RDS, the horse show.
Right.
You know, it's
Okay.
epic.
Yeah.
Oh, so cool. So you could do all these creative shots. A lot of it is just very mundane. It's like shooting the courts. It's shooting like not great stuff. Whereas that was my very first experience. I was like, all these creative artistic shots. Oh, can you throw the water on the horse and we'll get a silhouette? And I remember I got a couple of hits that day. He was like, oh, you'll submit these photos now and we'll see if any of them got a couple in the paper. Remember I got the back page of the Irish Examiner, which is like the thing to get because that's the photo of the day.
Yeah.
Everyone looks at that, and I got that, and I was like, "This is cool."
Class.
And just it was like a bug. I think it was just the gratification thing of kind of like you eat what you kill. So I worked as a freelancer, so you depended on how many shots you got in the paper.
Right.
So like a lot of it would be when I was working freelance. I worked for Collins Photos and I worked for Press Association, and I also was freelance. So if you're freelance, you go shoot stuff on spec. Yeah. So I kind of liked it. It really tapped into
So
my
you're going to show somewhere, take a lot of pictures and send them in.
as much as you work, that's potentially how much you'll get paid. So I really liked that part. And there was an element of jeopardy as well. And there was an element of competitiveness. And there was really like you can out hustle people. So I enjoyed the out hustling.
Right.
I would hustle everything. I'd go to like 10 things in a day. I'd shoot everything.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to ask you, like, were you like super competitive back then? Like, because as a freelance journalist, I would imagine you have to be.
Yeah, and ironically, they're over competitive because they kind of knew their goose was cooked.
Right.
Some of them were not. Some of them were not pleasant. They were just competitive to the point of being nasty. I was young. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and they're all side eyeing you coming in because they think you're going to eat their dinner.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's like I have to win for you to lose.
Right.
Kind of true, but also like if you're good, you don't need to worry about this young guy coming in, and they kind of tried to keep you down or whatever. So I really like developed a love-hate relationship with a lot of them. Some of them are brilliant, like any industry, but I think they saw the writing on the wall.
Okay. How do you get someone like, or how did you get someone back then to buy your photos? Right? Did you have to like pre-establish relationships before you kind of started doing that?
No, it's weird. It's just out you go. So you go and get a mailing list and send to all.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if they use it, then you get paid.
Here's the weird thing. This is what I horrible. You have to go through and check. Every day you have to check.
Oh, so you don't get told.
Yeah. So if you're an agency, obviously the agency does all that for you and you get a percentage and stuff like that. But if you're a freelancer, you're literally scanning through it. They don't tell you.
Oh, so you'd have to, would you have to like go buy all the papers?
Yeah, well, I got good at like scanning real fast in Spar. This is a business expense. I can't be buying 10 papers a day. So like I'll be flicking through real quick. I'm like, oh, deadly. No, oh, deadly. And like some days you get a hit. The same photo be used 3 or 4 places. Right. You get a good one. Great. But again, even in, I was doing 5 years I did it. The rates just started coming down and down and down. Okay. And I could kind of see the writing on the wall. Smartphones were getting really popular. Yeah. And I could just see that was going to take over. I was like, user-generated content is going to take over. There's still going to be a place for photojournalists. Yeah. Absolutely. Like high-quality photography just can't be beat. But I think for general stuff, for action stuff, you can't be everywhere. People are just going to go, snap, social media. Yeah. So then when I saw that happening, I was like, I don't think this is a good long-term career.
All right. Even like, oh, sorry, I'm fascinated now how you got paid as a freelancer. But so there's rates pre-established by newspapers or whatever that they would pay, or
they all have their own thing, right?
Okay.
They all have their own rates.
And is it like
depends on size, Depends on like, you know, the usage. So if you've like a big, huge 1/2 page jobby,
Yeah.
won't be a half page, but quarter page, that'd be a good rate. But if it's like a tiny one, that'd be that. If they reuse it, it's smaller, it's
Right.
less again. So it's very hard. Like there was probably hundreds of photos I never got paid for. Because sometimes your credit wouldn't even be on them. Usually you would say like Gary Fox, whatever.
Oh.
Whereas sometimes they wouldn't even just have the credit. So start dropping the credits. So you wouldn't even get the credit. You know, you're on the credit, you want the paycheck, but you wouldn't even, people wouldn't even know that's your photo. So people wouldn't even be able to go, oh, I saw your photo in the whatever, the Sun or whatever.
Okay. That's absolutely ruthless.
It's mad, but that's where the industry was going.
Yeah.
So all these kind of signals to me were like, as much as I enjoyed the crack, as much I did unbelievable stuff. I got to see and experience so many things. So I pushed. I went to the Middle East, did all the sport events. Like as a massive sports fan, I went to every sports game that was on. I did like concerts, did everything. So like I got an unbelievable experience.
Yeah.
They're the good sides of it. The bad sides of it, probably the pay, and then having to do all the nasty stuff like the courts, the tragedies, the murders. Like it's pretty grim.
Yeah. Wouldn't have been into that. Like, would you have to sit in court like for?
Yeah, that's it. They started me on the courts. I had a clue what I was doing. It was horrible.
That's just like sitting in court, hovering around different courtrooms to see what kind of
there
story.
with the worst jobs I've ever had. It was even worse than that. So what you would do is, yeah, this was a terrible start. It was lousy what they did, to be fair. My first day, they interviewed me and they were like, oh, look, we'll give you a go. We'll send you down to the courts where it's Gareth, the other guy who was doing it. And basically, it was when the courts were down on the quays.
Right, okay.
All the courts used to be there. Criminal courts, commercial courts used to be there in the quays. So on the quays, you'd turn up and they all had to go in one door.
Right.
That was the trick. Everyone to go in one door. So the front door. So I would literally have to stand there from 7:30 in the morning and shoot everybody. So I would shoot thousands of images. You'd be coming towards me. I don't know if you're walking to get the bus to work or if you're going in to be tried for murder.
Snap a picture.
Probably like thousands of images a day. And then you'd have to go in and figure out who's who.
Oh, man.
And the stakes were high. You get that wrong, I label you a murderer. I am in deep shit.
Defamation.
I'm huge, astronomical. Like they started me in the worst job with
Did
the
that ever
highest
happen?
stakes. Not to me, thank
Okay,
God.
yeah.
No, like you were just so worried though. Like you'd shoot literally. You'd be shooting thousands of images a day. All these people, and it was horrible. And of course, it was horrible. These poor people going into the worst event of their life, and you were there shooting the camera in their face.
Yeah.
Horrible.
I probably would have left after that first day.
It definitely gave me good character building.
Yeah.
It definitely made me a lot tougher. It made me a lot more. I would have a tendency to be naturally very shy and naturally quite introverted. It definitely made me have more grit and have more bit of a tougher exterior.
Yeah, because you probably have to stand quite tall. And
Oh, you get abuse, you get stuff thrown at you, you get spat on, like the whole shebang. And I did that for a long time. I did that for longer than I thought. I think I ended up kind of like not wanting to fail at it. I think I was like, right, I will outlast you. That's kind of been a theme. I was like, I'll outlast you. If you think I can't do this, I'll outlast you at it. So I did that, but it was, definitely. That was, and I ended up leaving that and coming back and doing it again. And like, I remember going back and I remember sitting vividly the day I remember I knew I wanted to leave the industry was that I was sitting in a court and there was 7 photojournalists like lined up in a row. And I remember looking along the line. It was like the ghost of Christmas future past. I was looking along the line. There was me, the young guy. Then there was kind of a few other guys. Then there was a guy right at the end, like he had a huge bad limp. And that was his thing. He used to do the courts every day. But he was definitely in his 70s, I'd say.
Jeez.
And he was a cranky old man.
Yeah.
So I was like, nah.
Yeah,
That's not. I don't want to go along this chair. I don't want to be in this chair in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Like, I couldn't think of anything worse.
Yeah, that's actually a good that's a reason why a lot of people actually leave their job as well. Like they're looking, like it's all obviously management, right? Is like they don't like your manager. That's like the main reason for leaving your job, right? But it's also like looking at like who's ahead of you and like what their life looks like. You're like,
Well, you have to be the CEO of your own career.
Yeah.
You have to be the person who takes charge. I think too many people outsource that to their boss, their manager,
Yeah.
whoever.
Be proactive about
No
it.
one cares.
Yeah.
No one gives a shit if Connor progressed or not. No one cares if Gary progressed or not. And more fool you if you think that they're going to look after you and make sure that you're okay. Especially as we head into the new economy now where companies are outsourcing, downsizing, AIing, the whole shebang. Like you literally are a number in a spreadsheet somewhere.
Yeah.
So unless you're in the CEO of your own career and you have built up either like a moat through experience or through contacts or through networks or through just being the person, you're in trouble.
It's interesting to see where it's going to go, right? Especially the recruitment world, because AI now is kind of doing the work of like 2 or 3 people.
It is, but I think you can't AI this.
No,
I don't.
Community is going to be massive. Like, I think you're already ahead, right?
Huge on that.
Yeah.
Huge. Doubling down on that. Like I literally wrote a post about it yesterday, the day before. Like as everything's going that way, you should look at what the opposite reaction is going to be this way. So
Yeah.
I think AI is going to lead to this glut of like information, really mediocre, poor stuff. Like it's going to be unbelievable. I think AI is literally going to be change the world in terms of like the internet changed the world.
Yeah.
But it's also going to lead to like a huge opportunity for you to go this way and go, right, what's going to be more important?
Yeah.
Stuff like this, in person, deep chats and personality led brands.
Yeah. It's because CEOs as well or business owners are due to be like the next big influencers, the trend coming through.
I think so.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see how it goes. But the entrepreneur experiment, your podcast, was you after the photojournalism, you kind of decided to pack it up and start your own podcast then, or
No,
you know,
there's more. There's more.
Really?
I'm gonna send this podcast to loads of people because people are like, you never talk about your own story. I'm like, yeah, because it would literally take an hour.
Okay.
I'm like, so I'm just gonna use this. I'm gonna clip this, send it
Yeah,
in
it's
there,
fine.
and go. Here's the notes. Just go watch that. So no, I did another course.
Another one.
Another one.
This is the sports psychology then, was it?
No.
Okay.
That was just a nixer. That was just
Right.
to scratch an itch. That was curious. That gave me a reason to read books.
Right.
No, this was masters in ecom and DCU.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was doing kind of freelance media, comm stuff. Did some stuff for UCD. Did some stuff for some politicians. And I could see this digital wave coming. I'm like, digital wave is coming. I could see it through the photography. I could see it through the media. And I could see it through communications. So I was like, all this digital wave is coming.
Right.
Digital is going to wash over everything. So I was like, I knew a little, but not enough.
Right. Okay.
And I actually felt this was a good course to do because I was like, right, this will give me a grounding in digital and immerse me for 12 months. Course was really hard, but really, really good. It was at DCU. I have to say it was excellent. The
Right.
standard was high. You know, it was really, really good. And that kind of like launched me then into like doing another startup. So launched a startup directly out of that. We did a startup as part of our final year project.
Okay, that's
Not
good.
final year, it is your only year, but as your final project, you can do a startup idea. So the grant, we're going to do a startup idea. We got funding through NDRC before we left college.
Right.
So
Okay.
we thought,
Yeah.
we met it, right? Startup dream. And it was when the Irish startup scene was just starting. And there's
Right.
this big wave of enthusiasm. No experience, but loads of enthusiasm.
Right,
People were like,
okay.
this is going to be class. But no one had a clue what they were doing,
Yeah.
including us. So we got on there, got some funding, got onto that program and kind of launched that business then. So we ran that for like 2 years and eventually ran out of cash.
Okay. What was the business?
It's called Video Scamp. So it's
Okay.
basically, if you launched it now, it would do well.
It's kind of like Canva, was it? Or?
No, so video content, like
Okay.
a huge database of video content, UGC content, matching it with brands. Like if you launched it now, it would do really well. But we launched it way too early.
Too early.
But you don't know, right? And
Yeah.
being early is the same as being wrong.
Yeah.
And we were early. We were wrong at the time. We weren't wrong with the idea.
Okay.
We were like, video is going to replace stills. It's going to replace everything. People are just going to watch video all the time.
Yeah.
Now look, all we do is watch TikTok and Instagram, right? So we were right, but we were completely wrong at the time. So basically, we were trying to get some traction. We worked with some brands. We started filming content for them. Started matching them with creators to do product reviews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So all the stuff that is popular now, but we just couldn't get that fit, and literally ran out of cash. So we raised some cash. Did it for 2 years, based up in the NDRC. Me and a friend of mine, Jen, and we just ran out of cash.
Okay. Common problem, right? Where like cash flow makes it
I mean,
last go.
we were like, and like you were losing a lot of money. Like you were losing money personally because you're paying yourself pittance. This was like a time when people were like doing well. You're like,
Yeah.
you could walk into Google and get a job for 100 grand. You're like, Jesus, this is draining. Like it was hard yards.
Yes,
I was 30 at the time. I was like, I need to start making some money here. Like
Right,
this is
yeah.
kind of the point where you're like, shit, this startup doesn't work. Where are we going to be? So did that for like 2.5 years. And then had to get a real job to pay some cash.
Okay.
First job back in the workforce properly
Yeah.
in, I don't know when.
What was the emotional feeling like closing down a business and running out of cash? Like how did
It
that-
was hard.
Did that
yeah.
affect you?
Like
Like,
people
or-
go, oh, failure is good and blah, blah, blah. It hurts like hell.
Yeah.
Especially that one, because that was quite public. We'd like been on all these lists of like I remember vividly, we were on like the top 10 to watch this year,
Oh, really?
and I was like, we'll be finished in 3 months if we don't get cash. And I remember we were in for like some funding, and the guy rings me and he's like, oh, you just missed out this time. You were number 16 and 15 got funding. And that would have been, look, it's the finest of lines. There's
Yeah.
no one to blame but yourself. It's the finest of lines. Success and failure are on the same side of the line. He said, oh, you know, you were number 16. You know, you'll get it next time. And I was like, to be honest, in 6 months we'll be done.
Yeah.
He was like, okay. You know, look, it's not his fault either. It was just on the day you win, you pitch, and
Yeah.
you know, the people in the room don't really get it or whatever. To be honest, it was we were weak. Like we probably weren't structured correctly. Good people, good idea. Too early.
Did you have any staff or?
Yeah, so we had a lot of contractors. So we
Okay,
contracted out everything. In fairness, we were clever. Like, and I kind of always known like contracting is the way forward. Like, so we had some people who came in and worked with us on contracts every so often to help us out, and that's how a startup should run.
Yeah.
If you start hiring loads of people, it's always a massive red flag for me when startups get funded and start hiring like crazy.
Yeah.
And your runway just goes, "Bup, bup, 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 bup." And that's the most common thing that'll run people out of road. You have to hire great people, but you can't hire great people if you don't have the money. So people start hiring like C players, D players, just to get people in the door, and it's seen like a badge of honor. Oh, we've 8 staff. You're like, that's not something to brag about.
Yeah.
You should have 18 customers. That's something to brag about.
Yeah, I think the problem with startups is they start hiring lots of staff quickly, and they don't have the procedures and processes in place to get them up to speed, or get them, or like they can delegate the task effectively and efficiently to get the most productivity out of individual, and that's like a massive mistake.
Well, you're trying to figure things out on the go, right?
Yeah.
You're the co-founder or the founder. You don't know what you're doing, so you're figuring things out as you go, and you're trying to like get these people to figure things out as they go. It's not fair on them either.
Yeah.
You know, how are they meant to like understand what you don't even know?
Yeah.
So it takes a very specific. You're better having a very, very small, tight team, and focus just purely on getting customers.
Okay. And did you have to give much of the business away, like when you got the funding, or?
Yeah, a little bit. That, to be honest, that wasn't the major issue. A lot of startups raise a huge amount of cash and give away loads of funding. We didn't have that issue. It was just, we just didn't have enough funding.
Right. Okay.
But again, how much funding would we have needed? Like, would it have taken 2 more years, 3 more years, 4 more years? You know, so sometimes the right decision is to close it down. You asked me how it felt. It felt terrible. Yeah, it felt absolutely horrible because you had a bit of shame. You had a bit of like your pride was hurt. You know, you'd invested so much of your own time, and like people are like, oh, it's not personal, it's business. It's very personal because you invest all your time in it. You become wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
So when it does close, then you're just kind of left with this like emptiness. Like people need routine, and you're left with this emptiness of like, what do I do now?
What point should like a founder come to, right? Because you've interviewed lots of like CEOs and yourself, right? You've had your own kind of failures, let's say, but like good failures. At what point should you decide that you need to wrap it up and call it a day?
It's a good question. I wouldn't have built it in that way. I wouldn't have raised funding.
Okay.
I've bootstrapped ever since. I'd always had bootstrapped.
Yeah.
I knew how to bootstrap well. I'd bootstrapped inadvertently since I was 15, 16. I just didn't know what it was. You have the cash, you spend the cash. You have the cash, you buy more stock. So I wasn't suited to that type of environment, being honest.
Okay.
I wasn't suited to that. It didn't suit me. If I had bootstrapped that business, we probably would never have quit. And I think that's the important lesson for people, is to know yourself, know your personality, and know what model suits you. I know exceptional founders. Literally, I just wrote about one a few minutes ago. Luke Mackey, they've just raised 12.6 million Series A.
Right.
Like, he is a pure, excellent founder. He can raise money and deploy money. That was not me. That was not my strength. That is his strength to a T.
Okay.
He's exceptional at it. You know, so you're asking a fish to climb a tree.
Yeah.
You know, you're asking yourself to do something you're fundamentally not wired to do. And I think a lot of people just go down that path. And I did this. I went down the path because that's what the road was. Oh, you get a bit of funding and then you do this and boom, millionaire. You know? So like, it was the thing, whereas now I know bootstrapping is the way forward for me.
That's it, you. Okay. And were you like reckless, like spending the cash, or like you just thinking you had a problem to spend it? Or
Not reckless at all. Because we hadn't, because it always had been my money and we treated it like that.
Yeah.
No, we didn't have that issue at all. It was just that we didn't have enough of it.
Yeah. Okay. It wasn't like an issue of like reporting to investors or having someone like having a boss as well, like, because that's what an investor is.
No, it wasn't, to be fair. No, NDRC were very good.
Okay.
And it wasn't that at all. It was just that like we weren't suited for that type of business. We needed probably have raised millions as opposed to like hundreds of thousands.
Okay. That's fair enough. So where are we off to next? Like, where did you get the job, and how did you feel?
Yo, I've lost track now of
Yeah.
where we even are.
All right. So you closed down the business, and you had to get a job because you need some cash.
Yeah, so went and worked in tech sales.
Tech
I
sales.
took one of those jobs. I went back and worked for the
How
man.
are you-
Took
how
one
did
of
you
those-
perform in
took
tech
one of those
sales?
I hated it. Absolutely hated it.
Just reading off a script all day.
Yeah, it was grim. I had never worked in that environment before. I was a good salesperson without ever calling myself that.
Yeah.
I knew how to sell, but in a very natural, organic way. This is a good product. You'll need it because of this. Whereas that was very much like, product is okay. I'm going to try to sell you it anyway, if being honest. So yeah, it was, look, a good learning experience because you got to know what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
I hated it. I counted down the days until I had enough money to leave again. All I was waiting for was enough money to clear debt and enough money to set myself up and start again.
How long did you stay for in the tech sales?
Just shy 2 years.
2 years. Okay, so
Yeah.
long enough.
So long enough, yeah. And I was decent at it. Like it was interesting. Worked with some great people. I have to say, the people I worked with were exceptional. They did hire well. The product wasn't very good, but they did hire very well.
Yeah.
And I was part of this thing whereby it was one of these American companies that came in, and I was like number 6, I'm gonna say. So super early. Because again, they wanted someone who like founder experience, because that was kind of valued at the time. Should be valued still. But I went on that journey then of 6 to, I think they went to like 180 while I was there. So like I was part of that, like to see what happens in that, and be able to be on board to see how the good things that happen and the bad things that happen, how companies scale, what goes wrong, what goes right. I learned very good disciplines around sales processes. I learned a lot around the people around me because they'd all come from like huge, big companies like Google, Meta, you know, all these big companies, and it exposed me to a caliber of people I'd never been exposed to before, like career professionals who were sales killers. So they taught me a huge amount.
Right. Did you get much training like when you joined this?
Tons. Yeah, tons. To be fair, they're excellent at that. I mean, American companies that did good structures around training, they hired very well. Like they hired people, they just went into Google and like, we'll have you and you and you. So they plucked just the best people. Yeah. And the training was very good. So that was one thing I couldn't fault them on. That.
Was the interview process long to get into the software sales?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I
it
think
was
like
really
5
long.
or 6 rounds sometimes.
It was really long, and I was like, I don't know what's going on here. Like it was very alien. And I'd done a few at the time. I interviewed at Twitter and interviewed at a few others, and it was really weird. I just found the whole thing really strange. If you were a sandwich, what would you be? You know, I just found the whole thing really strange.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think there's any like purpose in those questions, right? Like, or what brand of red sauce do you like? Or
I don't want to see how you think.
Yeah.
I get it, but I think it's a bit cringe.
Yeah. I've no time for it. Like, did you feel like at any stage, like going through that like 6 or 7 round process, that like this is not for me, or like what am I doing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I had no choice.
Right. Okay. so purely because you had no choice.
Yeah, to be honest, I was burnt out. I was wrecked. I was just tired and probably really shot on confidence. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go again, but like I just need to just regroup.
Yeah.
Just get my head together and figure out, just like not relax, but just not have to be on all the time, to like at least go, right, just turn up, you're gonna get a decent wage, you'll perform to the best of your ability, but you don't have to be the one making sure everything spins all the time.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough. And did you have your next idea while you were in that job?
Yeah, I started an ideas notebook.
Right. Okay.
Every day, an idea.
Right.
Every day, one idea. That was my little window out of prison. So I'd peer through the bars once a day and go, right, this is
This
my
is what I'm
idea.
gonna do.
So I just had a little green notebook, I remember it, and I'd write one idea a day. I would force myself to not lose the creativity, because when you work for yourself, you're creative, you're problem solving every day, every day.
Constantly.
New problem, new idea. And just to train that muscle to keep coming up with ideas. So I just literally would write down one business idea every single day.
Right. And what was your best idea?
The best is one that worked, right?
Yeah.
So that was the one I did, which is Host Butlers. But I had loads. Like it just, you know, you can make most ideas work.
Yeah.
This is the thing that people.
Just execution. Isn't
It's
it?
execution. To be honest, a great founder can execute a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, a good founder can't execute a great idea. Like it's very much the execution is the way it is. So like, let's say 100 ideas. you could pick most of them. Like some of them are terrible, but you could pick most of them and kind of
Make it
go,
work.
you can make a business out of that. It just depends on what you want, right?
Yeah.
You can make a business that's going to do 250K a year or 2 million a year. So you have to have the parameters of what success is. I have to know, again, I knew bootstrap all the way. So I only would work on ideas that I knew I could bootstrap.
Okay.
So I only went after ideas. Like limitation is brilliant.
Yeah.
Whenever you're trying to figure something out, impose limitations on yourself. People do I can do anything. You can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Yeah.
So be very specific. Impose limitations. Going, what business model do I want? What life do I want? How many hours do I want to work? Figure all that stuff out, and you can figure the idea out in reverse.
Right. Okay, that's fair enough. And your Host Butlers then business, that's the one that you set up. Did you have that going then on the side while you still had your 9 to 5?
So I left that job. I just reached the end. I was like, right.
Just quit, nothing else to go to. Kind of
I
thing?
was doing a bit of consulting on the side. I was doing some consulting for other companies as well.
Okay.
And I was like, right, I'm going to leave now and just go for it.
So happens.
So this was kind of the origins of the entrepreneur experiment, really. I was like, I might test a few ideas.
Okay.
So that was kind of the origin. If I trace it way back, that was probably the origin of like, how about I just test a few ideas? Because I always believe business is experimentation.
Yeah.
Just little tests run every day. So like, right, I'll test the Host Butlers idea. So I started testing it. I put up a website. It was called Air Butlers. It's a separate story.
Okay. Where did you get the name?
Airbnb, Air Butlers. There you go. And they also were the reason I had to change.
Oh, okay.
Here's a
Airbnb
solicitor's letter. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
They came looking for
They
you.
came
did they?
knocking. So I set it up as Air Butlers, and I was like, right, I'll launch a website. The Web Summit was going great guns here in the RDS. I was like, right, I reckon I can do a test around the RDS. So I set up the website. I'd been in the US at a wedding, and I'd done Airbnb. I'd been in Pamplona to do the Bull Run. I did Airbnb there. I was like, I think this thing's going to be big. I started looking at like stuff around it. Started looking at services around it. That's a great way if you're looking for a business idea. Look at what's really big and see what services and things are needed underneath it, because there'll be subsections that you can benefit on. So like, I reckon this is going to be big. So I looked at like what else was around Airbnb, and they're like the management companies in the States were cropping up everywhere.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, I reckon that's an idea. So did it, set up in Dublin, and then set up advertising around RDS, so Facebook advertising.
Right.
I did a geographical. You could, back in the day, we can draw like a circle. So I drew a circle of like, I think 5 miles around the RDS and targeted homeowners, going, do you want to earn money from the Web Summit? I'll manage your property in Airbnb, make $2,000 for the weekend.
Okay.
And that worked. So
Really?
I got the first maybe 5 clients out of that.
Right. Okay.
I literally rocked up. I didn't have a clue what I was doing.
Were these like people that had their house for like lease and like, or were they
Like,
people
it's
that lived in
different.
their
There's
house
some
and had like
people
empty
that- Yeah,
rooms?
some people live in the house. They're like, yeah, I'll move after the weekend if you get me $2,000. I was like, cool. What I'll do is I'll advertise it for you. And if we get booking, we get booking.
Right.
I'll take 20% and you take the rest. They were
Fair
like,
enough.
grand.
Yeah.
Happy days. So got like 5 clients maybe out of that. And I always remember the first one. I actually still mates with him today. I was messaging him last night watching the United match. Barry.
Right.
He gave me my first listing ever just in Ranelagh. We got it for the Web Summit. Made a few quid for him, made a few quid for me.
Okay.
I was like, there's something here. So I just started doing advertising all over Dublin, running Facebook ads. Got a first few clients, then got a few referrals. And then I literally found like a digital diary from the other day of when I was back doing it. I was like, oh, I met 2 investors today. They have property on Parliament Street and somewhere else. He's going to give me a trial. And I remember I got a building on Parliament Street. Right. He had just bought it. He's like, pitch me. He was the old school. I was like, sell me this pen. He's like, pitch me. I was like, well, it's pretty simple. Yeah. I just give him that pitch. I was like, look, I'll advertise on Airbnb. You take 80%. I'll take 20%. I was like, you win, I win. He's like, okay. He was pure. He was pure. He was an old school landlord, like, but he was pure business. Like, he was just like, he just wanted me to work for it. I was like, I come out and he goes, he just wanted to see me sweat, which I kind of respected as well. So I remember I came out of there. I literally bounced down the stairs. He goes, let's do it. I bounced down the stairs and I rang my partner, now my wife, Michelle. I was like, I think this is going to work. And that was it. That was off. We were off. So that went great guns. That actually literally flew. And that's timing. That's the exact mirror image.
Yeah.
In reverse of the original idea video scam.
Yeah.
So that was good idea, wrong time. This was good idea, great time.
Brilliant. Okay. And I think this is 70 properties you had it.
Yeah, with 70 properties all over Dublin. Like, it was
Okay.
class. It was mental. It was stressful, but it was magic because it was all mine.
Yeah.
I'd bootstrapped everything. I was responsible. There was no one to answer to, and the model just worked because it suited my personality. Like, it was fully bootstrapped. It was really clear. You're the landlord. You get 80%. I get 20%. The more you make, the more I make.
Yeah.
And I was super, super transparent. I was like, the cleaning fees are going to be 50 quid a night. Our cleaners cost 50 quid a night. I'm not skimming off the top here.
Okay.
That's the pass through. So the cleaning fee would go straight to the cleaning company. I was lucky enough. I met a cleaning company. They were just starting off around the same time. Met them, husband and wife, incredible people, Donna and Gabby, and met them. And we partnered early, and they grew as I grew. So they were able to like ramp up their business as I grew, and they were like, we had turnovers. So basically, we had it down to a fine art. We would literally turn over a property every 2 days.
Why didn't you set up a cleaning company on the side? Like, was that a thought?
Oh, I thought about that.
Yeah.
That is the worst and hardest job in the world.
I'd say so. Yeah.
I thought about it. I thought about everything, right? I thought about all the ancillary services, and but I knew the cost of everything to a T. I knew the fairy liquid, I know soap. I knew the cost of everything because you have to, right? It's your responsibility as a business owner to know every nut, bolt, washer in the business. I'd done everything. I carried the laundry. I did the laundry. I did everything. So I knew exactly how much stuff cost. There is no way you can make a healthy enough margin and do what you do and do it well.
Yeah.
Don't be doing everything. People got greedy and set up cleaning companies. They went bust. They all went bust because you're neither one or the other.
Yeah.
I was a management company. We managed properties really well. We contracted the transport of guests from the airport. We contracted the cleaning companies. We contracted everything else out.
Okay.
Because the margin for us was really healthy.
Yeah.
Like 20% of a nightly fee is really healthy.
It's not bad. Yeah.
You know, whereas with cleaning, you're talking about single digit percentages, like, and nightmare. Like having that many staff, and like, here's the honest answer why I didn't. On a Tuesday, our turnovers could be 3. On a Friday, our turnovers could be 33.
Yeah. How do
So
you
I'd need 1 staff member on a Tuesday, 15 on a Friday. So I was like, that's why.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it'd be a fucking disaster if
I'm not a good manager. I'll be honest, right? I'm not a good manager. I'm not great at it. I've got better. I've got much better. But back then, I just wasn't a good manager. I didn't know how to manage people well. So that would have been the worst possible business.
Yeah. Was that the first business where you had like PAYE employees?
Kind of. I'd had them previously in the business before, but yeah, it was the first. Yeah, that was wild.
What was your hiring strategy, right? Did you just like hire what you could get kind of thing? Or
no,
like,
to be fair, I
picky?
didn't. I didn't. No, we that was mad trying to hire people. That was God, some of the interviews, Jesus. I interviewed one person and they couldn't speak English. It was the funniest. Like, it was, when you're sitting back now, you're kind of going, "Oh my God!" You kind of laugh now, but I actually was exceptionally lucky. I hired Rafa. Rafa was one of the first people to work with me, and she worked with me from start to finish.
Okay.
She was exceptional. Brazilian woman, and she came in and she worked with me from start to finish, and we'd multiple people start and quit, start and leave. But her and then Claire came in, but I had a few doozies in the middle between Rafa and Claire. Rafa and Claire were exceptional. They were just the best, and I learned how to be a manager through them. They taught me how to be a better manager. So I empowered them completely. I literally split the business in 2. I was like, right, Claire, that's your half of the business. Rafa, that's your half of the business. You're now account managers. You manage that. And that was the unlock for me. That was like, just empower people. Just delegate, not even a delegate, but just more empower them to go, right, I trust you.
Okay.
I trust you know what you're doing. You can figure it out. If you don't, come with an option. Tell me what the solution might be. I'm gonna figure it out from there.
Okay. So you had like, don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution.
I didn't want to sound like a dick, but yeah, but like it wasn't trying to be like lazy or trying to be like that kind of person. It was like, oh, don't come to me with your problems. It was more so like, I want you to learn.
Yeah.
I really believed in empowering them to go, right, I need you to learn on the job here, because a lot of stuff, it was very dynamic. Like you'd face like the same problem, but very different problems. Like when you're dealing with, like, we could have 300-400 people a day coming through. So you can imagine 300 or 400 people coming through properties, all the stuff that people get up to in
Definitely
Dublin
issues.
for a weekend. We literally had it all, right? But it was variations on a theme. Do you know what I mean? It was variations on a theme that, stuff repeated. you know, it echoed kind of through the same kind of similar things would happen. You'd have stuff you're kind of going, how in God's name did they do that? But the majority of stuff was the same. So I wanted to empower them to go, I trust you to make decisions. And I just didn't want to be on 24/7 because that business is grueling. Like you literally are on 24/7.
I'd say you had like an emergency support line and stuff like that you had to answer, no?
Oh, I did. Yeah. It was, I'll be there in a minute. That's the emergency.
3
support line.
o'clock in
This
the
guy.
morning kind of thing.
No, you had exceptions like that. You had stuff where you're
Right.
like, oh, people got locked out and stuff. Like, so essentially you're running a small hotel, but it was fragmented all across the city.
Yeah. Jeez. That awesome.
It was class though. It was great crack. Great crack, great business. I couldn't say a word against it.
And COVID then brought it to an end, was it? Or
Yeah, it brought it to a galloping halt.
okay.
We just, you know, and that's why it's so important to be always evolving and always. I didn't evolve that business quick enough. That was definitely my weakness. Is
What would
that
have been the evolution of it though?
broadening it out, having a broader base than just Airbnb rentals. I should have broadened it out so that it was more probably dabbling into traditional, probably more management of the property overall, dealing with more investors, helping them top to tail, as opposed to just doing Airbnb.
Yeah.
Because when tourism stopped, we were in deep trouble. Like we lost $500,000 in 4 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah. So like that's the scale you're dealing at. You know, it just literally was like, because we'd seen a few cancellations in January. We saw a lot of cancellations coming to the end of January. So we saw it coming. And in fairness, the girls did flag it. They're like, we had some Chinese visitors cancel. It's unusual. We've had like a spate of them. I was like, that is unusual, but nothing to worry about. And then it was Italian visitors coming from the Six Nations.
Right.
That was the canary in the coal mine for us. That was when we were like, oh, this is a problem. Okay, how big a problem is going to be?
Yeah.
So we started working and kind of planning around it. And then Paddy's Day was like our Christmases come together.
Yeah.
Everything revolved around Paddy's Day because that was the start of the season. So Airbnb season would be from March to October. October to March, you'd kind of like, you know, you tip along. You do well, but not crazy. But from March to October, you made all your cash. March was like a triple month. We'd make 3 times the amount of money in March than we would any other month. So March was the cherry on the cake, right? That was where you made your profit. And obviously March was a wipeout.
Right.
And I remember COVID started at the start of March and we were like tracking. I was like, right, track every cancellation because we're going to have to rebook.
Right.
We're going to have to reassign all these bookings. Because like what happened is sometimes people are canceling. They go, oh, but I need to come next month. So we'd always be like moving around, being flexible. Because like I always was like, right, treat this property like our own because we're getting upside of it. We're also going to do the best possible job for the landlord. So we'd always be like slotting people in. We always treated it like we're the proprietors.
Yeah.
Okay, if you have to cancel this weekend, if something happens, you get sick. We're like, right, don't worry. We're going to get you back in now in April. And we kind of move you around like that. And then I remember tracking, we started a spreadsheet. I was like, start a spreadsheet. Everything ran through Google Sheets. I was like, start a spreadsheet, log every single cancellation, log their name, log everything.
Yeah.
And I was just like, boom, 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 boom. We did an amount tally, and every day the amount tally was going up like 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand. Oh shit, that's getting high. 200 grand, 250, 300, 350, 400. And I was like, well, I think this is a big problem.
Yeah. Jeez. Okay. You just have
the only thing constant is change.
Yeah. Did you try keep it going then on your own, or did you just
We tipped along. To be fair, we tried to keep going. Like we did all the emergency rental stuff. We did like all different types of stuff. Like because you don't know, right?
Yeah.
You just didn't know
know
what was going to happen. So we did loads of stuff for different landlords. Some people were like, oh, I just want to pull it off Airbnb and get like a tenant. I was like, cool, we'll help you. So we helped them. And then some people were like, oh, I want to do like, you know, I don't care. Just help people out, get emergency. You know, remember like nurses, doctors, people isolates, did loads of that. People in the UK coming here for like emergency work, did loads of that. But it was a nightmare. Like we were making zip.
Yeah.
Like we were making zip. Obviously get some government supports and stuff. But we made zip. And as it kind of went on, I was doing the podcast more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
I was like, right, I'm going to do more and more of the podcast.
Had you started the podcast?
Yeah, I started the podcast
Okay.
a year previously. So I started the podcast March 2019.
So you're always kind of on to the next thing.
Yeah. I, to be honest, I was kind of learning. I was like, right, I'm going to start the podcast to get more mentors, to learn, to be a better business person, to just build a network. Because I believe the network is the most important thing. So I started it. But it wasn't anything like it was kind of started as an experiment, being honest. I was like, oh, I'm going to incubate some business ideas. Because I always knew Host Butlers was an idea of a time.
Yeah.
I was like, I either need to like pivot this into something else because I knew it was going to have to move. So I was like going to incubate some business ideas. That was the original idea for the podcast.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll incubate some business ideas and then document them on the podcast.
Right.
I learned literally within like 2 months it was a terrible idea. because you can't. It's very difficult to build in public
Yeah.
when you have a business. If you're going to build in public, make sure you don't have a business already,
Oh,
because you've got
okay.
stakeholders, clients, staff who are listening, going, "Oh, you're going to start a new business without me?" You know?
Yeah.
So I was like, right, that's a terrible idea. I also realized I didn't have the bandwidth to do it. I didn't have the bandwidth to like start different
Right.
side businesses. So I was interviewing friends of mine, people in my network, acquaintances,
Yeah.
people who would intro me, and started doing more and more of that. I was like, this is getting really popular. Like,
Yeah.
people want to know people's business stories.
Mm.
I was like, I'm getting a new mentor every week, so I may as well be sharing the story. And it just kept going from that. I won't say snowball, because nothing snowballs. It literally would be the slowest snowball in the world, a 6-year snowball. But it was just, it started gaining enough traction that I was like, I'm enjoying doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to double down.
Were you like, you've 400 episodes or probably more now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for 420, I think now.
Yeah. Like, did you like at the start, right? Were you consistent like one a week, or was it like
Yeah.
one every 2 weeks, or like was it
No,
like
I was
a couple
consistent
for a few
I was
weeks and then
consistent
nothing?
from the start, because I know my own weaknesses are like, if I'm not consistent with things,
Yeah.
I struggle to keep them going. So I have to be very, very consistent. I need discipline, and I need a routine. So I was like, I'm just going to do one every week.
Yeah.
One every week. Just don't miss. And that was kind of, you need principles. You need frameworks, as opposed to like great ideas. You need like, what's your routine? What's your framework?
Yeah. And for any, like, so your podcast, right, is all about like business and everything else, right? And that's the specialism you went down. But in terms of like, did you look at like other kind of specialisms, or like, did you look at something else, like maybe like property, or instead of like interviewing entrepreneurs?
No, I briefly ideated some of them, but like, I wanted this.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with business. I'm obsessed with founders.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with business ideas, business models, business frameworks. How do businesses work?
Okay.
How do I become the best entrepreneur possible? How do I like understand this so much? And
Yeah.
I love founder stories. It's the thing. I would do this for free. I don't want it, but I would do it for free, right? So that's, I knew it would never be work.
Right.
It's hard work, but I'd never not enjoy it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. It's
I knew anything else. I didn't want to have to prep.
Yeah.
Again, a little bit lazy. Didn't want to have to do loads of prep, because I knew from know yourself, right?
Yeah.
I knew that's not what I'm good at. I wouldn't come in with like, some people are really good. They'll come in with like notebooks full of notes and, oh, I saw in 2003, Connor, you were this and da, da, da. That's not me.
Okay.
I'm interested in the people. I knew I would never be consistent if I had to do loads of prep.
Yeah. The prep, like, I just treat these like normal interviews, like, but I've done a little bit of prep, right? But like, would you like prep, like, would you do like, how much prep would you actually do for a podcast, or would you just go in blind?
Well, I do prep every day.
Okay. Yeah.
Sounds like a bit of a conceited
No.
answer, but like, I'm doing in business every day. I'm talking to business owners
Yeah.
every day. I'm in with founders every day. I'm thinking about business every day. It's all I do.
Yeah.
Is think about business every day. So like, it's not like I have to go in and learn about tax code.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not talking to tax experts here.
Yeah.
I'm talking to people about their founder journeys. Like, I've
Yeah.
done it myself over and over and over again. I know the pitfalls. I know how hard it is. I know all these different things. So it's intimate in my brain. It's not like something I have to go and learn every time. I will research people to a point, but not as much as people think. Because if you over research, you do this horrible thing subconsciously where you start, you know their story already, so you ask obvious questions, you kind of start telling them their own story, you follow the narrative.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you can do, is follow the perceived narrative of that person already.
Okay.
I want to have a fresh conversation with you, especially people who've been interviewed loads of times.
Yeah.
What's the point?
A little flow.
And doing it and just say, that's why radio, I'm allergic to listening to radio interviews, because a producer hands them the sheet.
Yeah.
Oh, here you go, Pat.
The research
You're interviewing
document.
Connor. So, Connor, in 1999, and just did it. Who cares? Like, that's what AI can automate, like asking questions that are boring and mundane.
Yeah.
And not listening, like what I said at the very start. Are you listening to reply, or you're listening to hear? Which is it? You know,
Yeah.
they're listening to reply. They're listening until you're finished talking. And the next question. Whereas, like, I do enough prep, I'll know most people's stories already.
Okay.
Most people I'm intro to, I've heard of their stories already, or I've heard a version of their competitor or whoever it is. If it's something brand new and unique, or there's something dynamic happening,
Yeah.
I'll do a bit more research. But I want to go in curious.
Yeah. Did it make money from day one, or how long did it take for it to see
No.
the financial gain?
No, you do podcast. You making money?
No, it's costing a lot of money.
No, it didn't. It didn't make money till during COVID.
Okay,
So it didn't make money till
how many episodes?
I'd say 2021 into 22, so 3 years. So I had Host Butlers. That was paying my wage.
Yeah.
This was just a hobby. This was like just something I love doing.
Yeah.
And it was only during COVID. I was like, oh, could do with some cash here. I threw it out to the. I remember sitting in my office going,
It's for
and
sponsorship.
we're now open to sponsors. Whoever, it sounded like I knew what I was doing. I was like, we're now open to sponsor. We've a limited number of spots. And I remember Kiri's in Cork. They were so good. They reached out straight away. They're like, we'll
Really?
sponsor you. We love the pod. Yeah, Bill and Brendan, absolute gentlemen.
Class.
Just great people.
Right, brilliant.
Just supported me. Didn't hammer me, just like, look, we're going to support you. We love what you're doing. We're huge fans of the pod. We listen every week. Honest to God, that was a defining moment. There's defining moments in your career, and them supporting me in the early stages, I'll never forget.
Yeah, class. It's kind of like you coming into my podcast today.
Well, this could be.
You turning me on.
Oh, no pressure. No pressure.
I'm joking, but well, I'm serious in a way. But in terms of, right, like the podcast, right, so that passion project then became your business.
Yeah.
So you know, the Airbnb kind of, dwindling away, that allowed you to kind of go 100% into the podcast then.
Kinda.
Okay. Did you have a job then as well?
Another little side.
Come on.
I was trying to launch an Airbnb tiny home village. So during COVID,
Okay.
I can't be idle because my mind wanders.
Yeah,
I would definitely get anxious when I'm idle. I can't really be idle. So I was like, right, I know Airbnb. What am I going to do next? I didn't think the pod was going to be my thing, right? I definitely didn't. So 21, 22 into 23-ish. No, 21, 22. During the height of COVID, I was like, right, I'm going to act fast because decisiveness is important. I was like, right, Airbnb regulations were getting really tight in the city. Right. We were getting hammered all the time. Dublin City Council, all the NIMBYs, all the nosy parkers, all the people with not much else to do, reporting you, sending you letters, all that kind of stuff. Live line ringing me up. Do you want to talk to Joe? I was like, I absolutely do not want to talk to Joe. Really? All the time. Like, they'd ring me up all the time. Oh, we'd love you to come on and, like, talk on behalf of landlords. I was like, well, that sounds like a terrible idea, Fenton. I was like, I definitely will not be coming on to talk to Joe about being the landlord spokesman in Ireland. I was like, that sounds like I'd be public enemy number one. So, and look, timing again changed. Airbnb changed. Timing changed. Yeah. Suddenly the mood shifted. When I started, Airbnb was sexy. It was cool. It was helping people. It was helping people travel. It was helping people pay mortgages.
Yeah.
The narrative was that. By the time I finished, even like 2 years before I finished, it's causing homelessness. It's adding to the housing crisis. It's negative. Public order issues, blah, 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 sex parties, whatever you want to do, right?
Yeah.
They were throwing everything in there.
There's a lot of shit goes on.
I didn't get invited to anything. Like, it was just, and it was completely inaccurate.
Yeah.
Airbnb was 0.6% of the housing supply. So not even 1%. So like, it was negligible. There was no impact.
Yeah.
And these people were just, and the media jumped on, and politicians used it then as a really weak argument to go, oh, it's causing by Airbnb. Instead of, like, the impact on tourism is astronomical from Airbnb.
Yeah.
And we're still going to see the impact of that. We're seeing the slowdown now, but I guarantee you, if you shut off Airbnb completely in the morning, our clients would spend somewhere between 10 and 20,000 per trip.
Whoa.
They would come in. They were wealthy Americans. From March to October, our visitors were 80% American.
So contributing to the economy.
So they weren't coming for a couple of days. They were coming for a week. They were coming Dublin, Cork, Limerick, Galway, back to Dublin again for 3 more days. Thousands. So we were getting hammered. So to answer your question, the outside the rent pressure zones, they were opened for Airbnb. I built 5 tiny homes.
Right.
I spent $100,000 building 5 tiny homes, threw all my cash into it, and then timing again played a factor. I couldn't get land for them. So I built it, and they will
You built
come.
the homes with no...
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Momentum, my friend.
Okay, yeah. Too much money.
Key. No, it definitely wasn't. I was like, I'm going all in on this.
Right.
I'm going to plow all the money into it. And then I went everywhere. I was laughing with my dad. I brought my dad to Bray versus Athlone the other day, and we were laughing about, like, I was getting time hops on my phone. 4 years ago, you were in Monaghan. I was like, what was I doing in Monaghan?
Yeah, what?
Oh, yeah, you were looking at land. I went everywhere. I went to Monaghan, Leitrim, ever try buy land. I was trying to buy land to put the tiny homes on.
Yeah.
couldn't get land. Land went astronomical.
Yeah.
So I literally had to sell them off. And then as it happens, the podcast was going up and up and up and up. Sponsors were coming in, going, yeah, when I sponsor. I was like, this is interesting. I started getting offers to do like, would you come host this event? Would you come speak? Would you do this? And I was like, okay, this is definitely something I'm loving. I'm absolutely loving it. I can get paid if I'm a little bit more. When you're half in and half out of something, you can never make it as good as you need it to be.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, I'm going to go all in on this. So when I went all in, weirdly, it started going much better.
Yeah. And was it like, did it turn into like a 1 day a week kind of thing, or a 2 day a week kind of thing, to like 5 days, 6 days, 7 day a week?
I was always kind of working on it, as in like I was always kind of like, I'd always work 5-6
Doing
days.
something on the phone.
I'd always be doing stuff myself. So kind of, it went from like probably 2 days property, 3 days pod to like 5 days pod. Just like, because the more time you can devote to something, the better you can make it, the more professional, the more stuff you can do, the more events you can do, the more strategic you can be, the better partners you can get. Because a lot of it is it's meeting people, it's developing partnerships. Like people are like, what the fuck do you do all week? I was like, you just host a podcast. I was like,
no,
that's a tiny part of it. I was like, you hear like 1 hour a week. I was like, there's all the relationships between sponsors, partners, guests, like guest relationships, like getting good people on. You don't just get them on. Like you have to earn your right to get them on. So it might be like building a relationship with someone adjacent to them. Yeah. Like building relationships, what I do most of the week is like becoming this kind of hinge person within the community, like
a business connector, sort of fixer.
And building your reputation as well. Like, are you someone who can get stuff done? Are you sound? Are you pro founder? And people trust me now. Like, I'm not a journalist. People are like, oh, don't do. People do my podcast, but they won't do traditional media.
Yeah. Do you think like you're maybe turning into like a PR agency almost?
No, definitely not.
No interest.
Not. Don't label me with that. No, not at all. Like, I'm a media business, but I'm not a PR business.
Okay. Yeah.
It definitely helps their PR to come on.
Definitely helps, yeah.
No doubt about it. They come on, it definitely helps their PR, but I am definitely a media business. I am for the founder. My sole focus is to make founders' lives better and to make their business better.
Yeah. Do guests pay you to come on, or do you pay guests to come on?
Never.
No. It's all
never.
pro bono.
Because you do that, you lose your credibility.
Yeah.
People have asked me that a lot recently. No, you lose your credibility.
Yeah.
You know, if like someone asked for like 10 grand and they were absolutely world class, someone world class isn't going to ask you for 10 grand. You know what I mean? But no, if someone said, look, Richard Branson will come on for 10 grand charity contribution, I'd pay it in a heartbeat. But I've never had to. I've never had guests ask for money. I've had people, I get pitches all the time.
Yeah.
Every day I wake up, my inbox is full of pitches.
Right.
I think a handful.
Okay.
A handful come on. Mostly it's referral, because the minute you take money from someone to come on your podcast, you've given away the credibility. My job is to create that hour for somebody every week to know that is the best founder they can listen to this week, not some person who's just shilling a SaaS product.
Yeah. Okay.
No hate on SaaS.
It is what it is.
A little bit of hate on SaaS. No, but you know what I mean? It's something that's not be beneficial. It's the same with my partners and sponsors. I don't bring people on that aren't gonna literally work for them and help the community.
Do you have any issues like with sponsors? Like, has anyone ever said to you can't have this person on, or you can't talk about a particular subject, or would you just say no to that sponsorship deal?
Exactly. Yeah. I've never had it because I never would accept it.
Yeah.
There's no editorial. They have no oversight as to who comes on. And I've also built that right. I built that reputation of not needing to be babied and managed. I would never be micromanaged like that. I've had a few people ask about coming on, as in like, I've had sponsors ask about like, oh, can we like see who's going to come on? I was like, no. I'll tell you who's coming on, but you don't get to ask.
Right.
It's like you don't, like, if you have referrals for people, 100%, send them on. Love to, but there'll be no guarantees.
Yeah. Okay. Have you ever recorded a podcast that you haven't put out?
Yes.
Okay. Many or?
Two.
Okay.
Which is not a bad hit ratio.
Not bad,
no.
Any particular reason why? Or is the story
shocking?
Bad interview?
Bad interview, yeah. One of them came through a PR company. He didn't want to do it. Okay. You could tell straight away. He'd already cancelled once. He came on and he was huffing and puffing when he came on Zoom. It was during COVID.
Right.
And he was huffing and puffing straight away. And I was like, look, do you want to take a break? Do you want to just recalibrate yourself? Like, it was just terrible. Like, so I hadn't done prep calls. I generally wouldn't do a prep call. I'd meet them for a coffee or something. But during COVID, all rules are off. Yeah. I hadn't done a prep call. He came on and he was huffing and puffing and making a big deal about it. Oh, I should have done this morning. Oh, I'm tired. Blah, blah, blah. I said, look, go grab a coffee, reset, and come back on. So it's all about energy here. I'm in no rush.
Yeah.
He goes, no, let's just get on with it. I was like, you prick.
Fair enough.
So I was like, right, okay, let's get on with it then.
Yeah.
And he just didn't want to do it. So after about 20 minutes, I was like, this is awful. Yes, no answers, like leading me down blind alleys, not willing to share, not willing to be open and honest and authentic.
Yeah.
And I finished up, I wrapped it after about 40 minutes and hung up, rang the PR company. I was like, what was that? And your man had sat in on the call. I never let people watch the podcast. I never let people sit in.
Yeah.
That was not my rule. And I broke that rule then. And I never broke it since because he sat in. And that was the first indicator that something was wrong because he was sitting in to babysit him. I was like, yeah, you can sit in, just mute your mic, turn off your camera.
Yeah.
So he was over there in the corner. So I rang him and I was like, hey, what was that? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, that was the worst interview I've ever done. He goes, oh, no, it wasn't. I was like, well, you went off to play PlayStation for 40 minutes because there's no way you sat through that and didn't think it was a car crash.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll listen back to the first 5 minutes just out of courtesy. But I can tell you with 99% certainty that will never see the light of day. And it was an interesting-ish business.
Right.
It's just your man had the personality of a cardboard box.
That's fair enough. Do you find it hard to get people to warm up to you, like during the interview, or is
I did during COVID. It was very hard.
Yeah,
because
'cause
it was
Zoom.
so alien.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so alien. Like, and people didn't know about the podcast. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
People were doing it because yeah, I'll do a podcast. And someone had told them it was good or whatever. Whereas now, luckily enough, most people have heard about it.
Yeah.
They might have listened. They get the vibe. If someone's listening and they get the vibe, it's the best because
Yeah.
they know the crack, they know the flow, they know what, like, where we're going to go with it. They know like how the energy is going to be, and they know what version of themselves to bring. They
Yeah.
can be open, authentic. And I've got better. I've got way better about like the whole process. So
Yeah.
I've always tweaked the process as to how I do it. So I have a very deliberate process about how I interview, the style, the flow, everything.
Okay. Did it take you long to learn that flow, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still learning. Honestly, 6 years in, I'm still learning. Every season I look back and I go, right, I do a deep dive, kind of like a hot wash on it, and go, right, how can I get 10% better?
okay?
How can I get 10% better? How can we make the process 10% better?
Yeah.
You can't change everything all the time because
No.
then people are like, what the hell? Why is it like this now? Why has he changed to like do this? So like I introduce things like a quick fire round. I do things like I do a coffee with them straight before. It was probably one of the best advice I got was from an old editor. He was like, you need to start in the middle more. He's like, you're starting at the very start. He's
Okay.
like, you need to start bang into the middle, straight into the conversation.
Right.
None of this warm up.
Yeah.
And I knew that myself inherently, but him saying it, I was like, yeah, that first 20 minutes is just, it's lacking a bit of oomph.
Yeah, it's
And
slow.
nowadays with social media and with people's attention spans, you do not have 20 minutes.
Yeah, you have to get it going straight away.
You have to get them going straight away.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting. I might take that advice.
There you go. Start in the middle.
But did you get like did you read any books then as well, like on interviewing people, or like? 'Cause I know you're big into like the books.
No, I read books all the time. I read probably a book every 2 weeks.
Right.
But no, that's one of those skills you need to do.
Yeah, just listening to other podcasts.
Just get better. Yeah, listen to the podcasts. Not too much because then you start to mimic and ape other people, but do it.
Yeah.
Do it and feel it, listen back and just study what works. So I use the social media now as a kind of like an A/B tester
Right.
as to what is resonating with people.
Right. Okay. So do you spend money on the A/B tests, or do you just
No, I just
up
put
to
out
works.
content and see what works.
see what works? Okay. Did sorry, anyone else that's starting a podcast now, like, what advice would you give them?
Think of it as a minimum of a year.
Okay.
That's my advice.
Yeah.
Don't think of this as like, I'll do 8 episodes.
Yeah.
Waste your time.
Okay.
Breaking your heart because very little will happen in 8 episodes. You have to think of it as a year. Look, if you want to do it and mess around, have the crack. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, no harm, no foul. It's good fun. It's easy to do. It's relatively low cost depending on what way you do it. But if you want to be successful at it, if you want to make this either like a business development arm of your business,
Yeah.
which I think is the ultimate hack, or you want to go into it as a media business, you have to think of it as a year.
Okay.
It has to be a business. Like you have to think of it as a business. I would give this a minimum of 1 year. And I would say within that, you need to be releasing about 40 to 50 episodes.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think that's the critical mass you need because with 8 episodes, with podcasting, it's getting a bit better now with video.
Yeah.
Video is more discoverable, but podcasts are not viral by nature. Like podcasts are hard to discover. You know, sitting down for an hour, if people are still listening to this after 45 minutes, whatever it is,
That's all wrong.
it's brilliant. Like that's a good, like that, but that's hard to hook someone
Yeah.
for that length of time, especially with a new podcast, because I found the most likely way people will listen to my podcast is you will refer them.
Yeah.
Not you personally, but you know,
Never.
a personal referral going, Gary sent this to me, Paul sent this to me, Kate sent this to me, and I listened to it.
Yeah.
You know, that's hard to grow though.
Okay.
So you're going to be a good few weeks, years getting out to your network. But the hack there is start to do video. Start to do video early.
Yeah.
Do social media clips early. Do TikTok early. Do Instagram early. I started with audio only. So the first 3 years of my pod was audio only.
Right.
I started when pods were just an early thing, like it was all audio.
Okay.
And it was growing like literally 1, 2, 3, 4, watching the viewers go up like that, as opposed to like now, you know, you can throw up a TikTok and get 100,000 views today.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? How quick it can go. But in terms of like yourself, right? How long did it take you to get like 100 listeners?
Oh gosh, I actually did something recently. It was 6 years, and I went back and looked, and I got more listeners in like an hour or two than I got in the first like week. I think I'd say it was 100 listeners. I'd imagine it was. I'd say it was a couple of months.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
honestly.
Yeah. Mine's only like I've been down it. Well, I think I'm at like over episode 50 anyway. But like the podcast only, I think I got like 200, maybe 300 subscribers in like the last 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So like it took like I was stuck at like 150 for ages.
It's painful and it's really hard, and you have to be consistent, and it's so hard to be consistent when you're not getting the reward.
Yeah.
Because you don't get that little hit of like, okay, cool, got an extra like 10 people today or 20 people, but it compounds really fast, like, and it took me longer than it probably should have because I didn't do video.
Right.
It was during COVID that video just became the default. Like Chris Williamson, Steve Bartlett, all these guys were doing video, and I was like, I'm at nothing here if I'm not doing video. So I came back out of COVID, rethought of it as a media business, and started shooting video, started shooting in studio. It was full professional.
Yeah, it was one of those things that you were early with though as well. Like you're one of the early adopters of podcasts, but it was kind of like one of those things that stayed on the internet that like it's not really going anywhere, and you could just it could just evolve from there. I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. I think people
pods.
Yeah,
I think they're early. Again, I'm biased.
They're early.
I think it's early.
Yeah, really.
I think it's early. Yeah, I think we haven't reached peak podcast yet. I think, because not enough people stick at it. People don't get to episode 50.
Yeah.
They don't get to episode 420. They get to episode 10. Like I've been in this 6 years. I've seen hundreds of podcasts start, even in Ireland, in Dublin. Hundreds,
right?
And none of them are still going because it's hard. It's not lucrative. It's way more work than people think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because I think like I was at an event with the podcast studio like a while back when I first started recording there, and they were saying you only need 20 listeners to see a return to your business, like financially. So like even if you only get 20 listeners,
the 1,000 true fans thing, I think about that all the time. I think that is unbelievably true. If you can find 1,000 diehard listeners, that's enough to sustain your business. That's enough to sustain a business. So I think especially what you're doing is just the ultimate hack of just layering it on to a business. This is lead gen, proving you are the authority in this space. You're producing content and you're doing what other people won't. The majority of business owners won't do this. They won't put themselves out there. If they do it through a third party. Whereas you're putting yourself on the line every single week going, this is what I believe. These are the principles. This is how I operate. This is who I am. They are the things that will define businesses going forward. I think one of my predictions is businesses will have a media arm. They'll have a sales team, a marketing team, and a media arm.
Yeah. Or what about like this thing of like the CEO now having like a personal brand, like see like Zuckerberg and things like that, like kind of falling into that.
We see him rebranded as a cool surfer guy. I'm into MMA, I'm into cool stuff. I got my curls and my chain. It's true though.
Yeah.
Like, but that's always been the case. Like it's just that we now kind of see it a bit more now because traditional marketing is suffering. Yeah. Brands don't have and you see this, like everything goes in cycles, right? Personal brands were huge about 10 years ago. And you see this like all the time. Everything repeats. All the stuff repeats. Brands, trends repeat. Whereas I believe like, look at Elon, love him or hate him, go back 3 years, people thought he could walk on water. Yeah. And he built a Tesla brand with zero marketing. So whatever you think about him now, it worked. Like he overreached with Twitter, but if he'd stayed with Twitter, stayed with Tesla, just doing Tesla, he'd be revered. Yeah. But personal branding is the ultimate business hack.
Yeah, it's It's interesting, like, because there's even a guy on YouTube that I watch, big fan of him. I'd like to get him on the podcast someday. Max Chaining or Chewing, his name is. He
Max
said,
tuning.
yeah,
Sour
do you know?
strips.
Yeah, sour strips.
I've watched Max for, I'd say, 10, 12 years.
Yeah, like class. Like Bob by Hershey's there. Like I think it was last year.
He is a legend.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Have you met him? Or?
Every Sunday we sit down and
Yeah,
watch his vlog. Me and my wife sit down, watch his vlog. And I feel, and I was only writing about this last week. You have deep personal connections to these people. I've watched his life for 12 years.
Yeah.
People have listened to my pod for 6 years. People know my story. People come up and go, oh, that thing a couple of years ago. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. You know, people are invested.
Yeah.
So people invest. Like I've invested in him. You've invested in him. Time, effort, money. His wife Taylor, his dog Dude. You know, intimately.
Yeah.
Like, you know his story, his life, because people buy into his story. They don't buy into products. They don't buy into companies. They buy into your story.
Yeah. How did you feel putting yourself on camera for the first time? Did it bother you, or did you have to kind of build up the confidence to do it?
No. I think I'd been kind of training myself all the time to do it. Like I
get
used to be chronically shy. I wouldn't speak in public. I still hate networking events, but I wouldn't go to them because I'd be really shy.
Yeah.
Whereas I realized, again, know yourself. I love this. I love having really deep, proper conversations with people. I hate the wedding table scenario where you're around the table with 10 people.
You're competing for attention.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I just, Jesus. You're just, what do you do yourself anyway? Oh, the weather. I hate it. I just get social anxiety. I can't stand it. I just find it so boring. Whereas I love this, but that comes back to, again, knowing yourself, knowing what you're good at, knowing what you enjoy, and just leaning hard into it. And I suppose I've been training myself all the time. And again, it's reps, right?
Yeah.
I never even think about the camera now. I never even think about the recording because I've done it so much. And I know if I ever, people are like, oh, how do you get over that? Because some people are chronic about it, even when they're coming on the pod.
Yeah.
I always think of think of the dream outcome.
Yeah.
Think of 5 years' time when you have the #1 founder podcast in the world. What would that feel like?
Yeah.
The nerves go away pretty quick then. Or I'm like, let's go.
What's the end goal for the podcast? Like, is it world domination, or are you going to stay in Ireland with Irish businesses? Or
it is global. It is. It has to be. Yeah, it has to be. Like, I've really got a strong foothold here. It'll always be grounded in Ireland, but I was overthinking it, to be honest. I was really, really overthinking it, going, oh, I need to have Irish founders and people will freak out if I go abroad and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then a few people are listening mainly because of you now, Gary, as well. I suppose it's an Irish thing not to have any ego of like, oh, they're sure they're not.
Yeah.
It's grand. But it's true. Like, people buy into your story and founder stories. So like, I was like, what do I believe? I believe being a modern day founder, and to be truly wealthy, you have to have a healthy body, a fit mind, and a profitable business. Okay. They're the 3 pillars, because I've learned so much from interviewing over 400 people going, I don't want to be the person that ends up at like 60 with a great business, terrible marriage, my kids don't like me, and I have a heart problem. Okay. I don't want to be that. So I've doubled down on my health. I've doubled down on my fitness. I've doubled down on relationships. I've doubled down on looking after my mental health. Yeah. And that's the message I want to go through the pod, because I think that's what modern founders should be, because you have a choice. Yeah. You definitely have a choice here. People think, oh, I'm all in on the business. You have to be. Yeah. But you also have to be all in on yourself. Yeah. You also have to be all in on your body, on your mind, and looking after yourself. Because I've met so many miserable founders. Yeah. People who've made it. If you're listening, I'm doing the air quotes here. People who've made it, right? But they haven't. Yeah. I remember being at this dinner. It was really illustrious. I was delighted to be invited. I get invited to some cool stuff now. It's one of the perks. Yeah. But I was with like all these like seasoned titans of industry, the people who read about it on the back page of the Sunday Times, right? I was like, deadly. Oh, can't wait. Within half an hour, I was like, these are not my people. These are old, pale, male, stale. Just good old boys on the good old days, talking about the good old times. One guy had literally a fight with me because I wasn't drinking. He literally had caused a scene. Have a few pints with the boys. I was like, oh, mate, you are a dinosaur. I was like, you can have as many pints as you like. I said, you can have my pints if that helps you. And he goes, oh, I bet you won't have dessert. I was like, do you know what? I'm not going to have dessert. even if I really wanted it. Even
you still wouldn't
I still wouldn't do that. But he was like, that's the old school stuff. Like that, you have to lose for me to win. That's not the way. The world is big enough now. The industry is big enough. You don't need to be like that anymore. Yeah. So for me, global, to be the #1 podcast in the world for founders, if you want that model, if you want to have a healthy body, fit mind, and a profitable business, I want to be the #1 podcast you come to go, I'm going to learn from the best founders in the world how to build my formula for success, because it's different. Your formula is different to mine. It's different to the lads. It's different to the next person on the street. Everyone has a different outcome they want. And it all comes back to knowing yourself.
Yeah, everyone's strategy is different. And High Rocks, right? Is that kind of the first sport that you've kind of taken on as like an entrepreneur?
Oh no, I love a good bandwagon.
Okay.
Anything's going, I'll jump on and try it out. No, I've done sport all my life. I love it. I love it. I love watching sport. I go to any live sport. Massive football fan. I am very low today, despite my upbeat demeanor of United last night. But that's trauma for another day. No, I've done loads. Like I've always like, and really gone deep into it. Probably 7-8 years ago, I did an MMA thing. This thing whereby they take people from like 0 to like MMA fight in 6 months.
Warrior kind of thing.
Warrior, exactly. Yeah. So I did this first season of that back in the day, back when John Kavanagh was in his first gym, and I did that, and that really gave me a grounding in like elite level training and just what it takes to be an athlete, inverted commas. And I've just stuck with that training, and that not MMA training, but just that style. I'll train every day at 6 a.m. I have a very regimented, like, health regime, food regime, and like I then realized I need to compete.
Yeah,
I need an outlet for that, because I was training. MMA is great. You're training for the ultimate end goal, which is like to get smacked around the cage.
Did you fight in the end?
Yeah. It was a long story. I didn't. Your man backed out, and then I was literally there. The lads were like, "Oh, just complete the process, do the weigh-in on your own, bring your gear." And it was great advice. I've taken this on board for everything I do. Do it as if you're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Be professional and see it out to the end. So I did the weigh-in on my own. no competitor.
Yeah. They probably got you someone in the end, did they?
So what happened was I weighed in, did the thing, pissed off, got up that day, had like a normal breakfast, brought my gear in the bag and left it in the car. I went in, I was sitting down, and the first fight was just about to start. And a mate of mine, Andy, comes over and he goes, "Gar, one of the lads are after blowing their medical." He's like, "Do you want to fight?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "There's 2 weight divisions up though." And I was like, "Doesn't matter."
Yeah, just get it going.
So like got smacked around the cage. Your man was 85 kilo and I had gone down to 63.
Oh, it was a big difference.
It was a big difference. But he didn't finish me. He won on decision, but he didn't finish me. And I was like, just get in and feel the cage door close behind you.
Yeah.
That was the feeling. I was like, I needed to finish that out, because if I hadn't, I probably would have just went back to the next season, because I just couldn't. I need to finish things. So kind of since that, I've always tried to compete. I've always tried to find stuff like High Rocks, like running, whatever it is, that I can just train, compete, I need end goals. I need stuff in the vision going, right, I'm going to train now towards High Rocks London. I want to get this time. That's the goal.
Yeah. How did you feel the cage door closing behind you? Were you like relaxed, or were you nervous, or?
Fine.
Yeah.
Because that was the end of the journey.
Yeah.
That was because I'd done the prep. I find you're only nervous if you haven't done the work.
Yeah.
If you haven't done the work, you're nervous. And like, I used to be very nervous about loads of stuff, but I was like, "No, this is fine, because this is what I've trained for. This is what I want. This is the end of the journey."
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was weird, like, because you should feel nervous. Feeling, right? I felt nervous in training. I felt nervous when you'd spar.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense, right? Your brain is like, "This is a terrible idea, Gary. Yeah. This is a terrible idea," all the time. And whereas when that closed, I was like, "No, this is right. This is where you need to be."
Yeah, I think the most nervous part of it is actually putting on the gloves or the mitts. But once you're in the ring, that's it. It's game on, right?
It's bizarre.
Yeah, it's a strange feeling, right? It's good. But then, right, so what's next for you? Right? Because you're a man of many talents, right? What's happening next, right? So
3 hours later.
Yeah.
What's next? That's a great question. So I have a lot of plans for the podcast in terms of like not spin off, but just stuff that'll sit around it. So we're going to have like live events.
Okay.
We just launched a retreat in Marbella. Right. So for me, I think the value is in building this elite community of founders. So all the guests who've been on the pod, bringing them together to have this unbelievably strong community. I think that's the bit that I'm missing.
Yeah.
Is that I've got this like unbelievable network of probably like, you're not best pals with all of them. Like, so people always ask me for like intros to people that have been on the pod. And I was like, ask me for anybody, but I'll tell you if I know them or if I've met them.
Right. 2
very different scenarios. Like, some people can go, "No bother, I met Connor, sound man, intro 2 seconds." Whereas some people like, "I only met him once. To be honest, haven't spoken to him since." Right. Some people you're like WhatsApping and DMing and having a crack with. Some people, it's like people, you're not best pals with everybody. But I have probably about 100 to 150 founders that I would be in semi-regular contact with.
Okay.
And what happens is one of them will reach out and go, hey, can you connect me with so-and-so? Whereas I need to bring that together in a cohesive thing. There's huge value there in terms of founder community, but also the podcast. So founder events, the retreats, and then there's loads of other stuff around the podcast that we want to do. So in terms of like being a broader media business, so going abroad. So we did Dubai in February, doing some USA in October, November. So we'll do probably New York and San Francisco, and then London. I'm going to be over and back for the next 6 months. Just going to do expats and then broaden it out that way.
Yeah, that'd be a good way to go because you get introductions that way.
Exactly.
Class. And if anyone wants to find you, where can they find you if they don't already know?
Everywhere. If you can't find me, you're very bad at the internet. So go to the Entrepreneur Experiment or Mr. Gary Fox, MR Gary Fox at all social handles, but you'll find me.
Okay. And what about your newsletter? How can they sign up to your newsletter?
Oh, thank you for the plug.
There you go.
MrGaryFox.com.
Mr.
Subscribe, weekly newsletters, all the best stuff.
All right, brilliant. Thanks for coming on, Gary.
That was a pleasure.
Much appreciated.
A special thanks to Gary for coming on to the podcast. It was great to hear his story after interviewing 400 founders. It's nice to know the man now behind the mic. If you liked the episode, if you could hit the like or subscribe button, that'd be great. Thank you.